introduce Jennifer Berthium. The Mayor Pro Tem was elected to the Murphy City Council in 2016 and re-elected in May of 2019. She previously served on the Murphy Community Development Corporation and the Planning and Zoning Commission. Ms. Berthium is a member of the Murphy Community Emergency Response Team, which is a natural extension of her skills gained from her degrees in geography and disaster management. She also currently serves as one of our Chamber of Commerce ambassadors. In her professional life, Ms. Berthium is a GIS and digital technology consultant for an international environmental engineering firm. In her spare time, she actively pursues learning self-defense techniques using Krav Maga. She and her husband, Ryan, live with their 2 dogs in the Timbers neighborhood. Tell us all about this city, Jennifer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm going to share my screen to show you a little bit about what's going on here. Let's see here. Let's slide this a little bit. All right, folks, let's just jump right into it. I'm not going to avoid the elephant in the room here. We have had a wild year at the city. This is unprecedented times, and COVID-19 really has done a number on, well, our nation at large. I will say that all the things that our staff has done to respond to COVID-19 has really been an admirable job. They have been able to transition to working from home, which is sometimes the first time that many of them have done that. Some of them have still had to show up day to day to be able to be on call for our city services. And we can't say how much we appreciate them, although I will continue to say it over and over. I would love to be able to update you with the most current numbers of what we're experiencing here in the city. But truth be told, things are a little bit crazy in the numbers reporting game. Chief Albright has been fabulous at trying to keep track of our internal numbers of what we're seeing as our firefighters go out and respond, our paramedics, our EMTs, as they respond to possible COVID cases around town. I am showing you right now the COVID-19 dashboard from Collin County, which admittedly has a huge disclaimer right at the top of this as you pull it up every day, because no longer is the county reporting these numbers. This is all coming from the Department of State Health Services. So this is coming from the state, which there are different ways that they are scrubbing and trying to understand the numbers. And so you'll see these items here in kind of boxed out in green are most relevant to the city of Murphy. The deceased number, I will caution you, and the hospitalized numbers, those refer to all of Collin County at this point. That is not Murphy specific. We unfortunately have had a few deaths of residents due to COVID-19. It's tragic. I was heartbroken when we heard about the first, and every one since. Right now, even though the dashboard is showing that we have approximately 13 active cases in our city, I did get a quick estimate from Chief Albright, and he did say that his internal kind of estimates is that we're actually probably more around 23 at this point in time. Regardless, we have actually had a fairly good healthy response to this pandemic, and so I would encourage everybody on this call, not just to encourage you, but all your businesses, all of your employees, and all of your friends and family. Stick with those 3 principles: washing your hands and sanitizing surfaces, wearing a face mask when you're out in public, and keeping social distancing in mind whenever possible. So with that, we are in this pandemic for the long haul. I don't suspect that it is going to be quitting anytime soon. And of course, we are about to go into flu season. So these are pretty good practices just for flu season in general, washing your hands, keeping distance if you can. But at the same time, just be cognizant of these things. We're going to try to continue to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic as much as we can. You'll see that our city has actually passed a declaration of disaster, and that has basically passed through all of the governor's orders. So at this time, we're still just passing through everything that has been put on us by the state, which I think is still very appropriate at this time. We're still trying to make sure that we limit all of our kind of outdoor activities or just indoor activities to small groups. So if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me, drop a line to the mayor, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. On to the more dry stuff. This is the dry part of the city updates here, so bear with me. The city budget, we are actually going to adopt the tax rate in the budget tonight at our council meeting. So I do encourage you, it is a rather long docket tonight, but I encourage you, if you feel free to call into the city and we'll make sure to kind of give you all the nitty-gritty details about what's going on. But I hope to give you a little bit of preview here as well. In terms of our property tax rate, we are going to be holding that steady at 49.5 cents per $100 valuation. You're going to see some information here in a few slides where I talk about that a little bit more, but that is an important number, and it is important to note that we are not changing the tax rate. That is not our intention, and we have budgeted as though we are not changing the tax rate. In terms of our general fund and our utility fund, both of those saw increases in our budget of about 3% over the past year, which just basically is indicating that our city continues to grow a little bit slower than it used to, but we still have some room for growth. And so we'll still be collecting additional revenue and of course having some additional expenditures. Speaking of the pie charts of the day, come to us in the form of our revenue and our expenditures. So we're sitting at about 54% of our revenue is actually gained by collecting our property taxes, both residential and commercial. So this is a little bit different from other cities that you may be involved with, because that majority of our revenue coming from property taxes is just a little bit different. We don't have as substantial of a commercial area as some other cities do. We are primarily residential. So that's why we rely so heavily on property taxes as a revenue instead of sales tax. Although we have a pretty healthy chunk coming in with our 2% sales tax as well. In terms of our expenditures, 64% of that goes towards personnel, and that's really just to make sure we still have the best and the brightest around. We have some amazing staff members, and they have all continued to exceed expectations, try to become bigger and better at their jobs, making sure that they're getting additional training. And I've really been impressed with the way that ever since I've been elected on council, I've really noticed a number of the departments have just really done outstanding jobs trying to kind of not only navigate kind of their departments, but also things like responding here to COVID, making sure that they have tightened their own belts while still making sure that we are providing the level of service that our residents expect and really require. Now, if you're clever enough to do the math, which I am not a math person, but those numbers look a little upside down. And that is true. We actually have a budget shortfall in this upcoming year of $437,000. So we're actually going to be taking that from our reserve, which is pretty healthy at this point. I think we've got a reserve about $6.2 million. So we have chosen at this point to not raise our property tax and instead cover that budget shortfall through our reserve. And that way we'll hopefully lessen the burden on our taxpayers. Couple of quick notes on our utility side. The utility fund, back in 2018, we actually issued $5.5 million of certificates of obligation. That was to support a number of different projects. I think we've got about 7 projects listed there. I will say 3 of those have been completed. And I say 3 with a hope that the first one, which is the North Murphy Road 8-inch water line, I think that one is technically completed, if not at least in punch list mode. But the rest of them are all in progress as well. So we're very excited to be able to wrap up those projects here by the end of this next fiscal year. The other big news here on this slide is that we plan no increases in water and sewer charges for this upcoming year. So as of October 1st, when our water and sewer rates always take place, that's always the change in the rates, our residents won't see a single change to their bills. It's going to continue on with the same rates. Now I say that knowing that every single year, I want you to be aware that City Council does undergo a review of these rate increases, and we look out about 5 years ahead. It's always a little bit of a game because you don't know what to expect in the out years, but we do try to keep in contact with North Texas Municipal Water District because they manage and maintain our water and sewer supplies. And so we do have a couple of things looking out ahead where we know that they're going to be planning some capital improvements on one of the wastewater treatment plants that we feed into. So that probably is going to be impacting our cost here coming up in the next couple of years. But like I said, we review those rates on an annual basis at this point. I think we typically used to do it every other year. We've gone to every year just to make sure that anytime we are thinking about a potential increase or any kind of change to the rate structure, we try to minimize the impact to our residents, because even a few cents can make quite a big difference if you have some large bills. So earlier, Julie mentioned that Collin County has a couple of programs. One of the things that we have received here at the city is a portion of the CARES Act fund. So if you were lucky enough to be a city that's over 500,000 in population, you basically got the money from the feds right away. We had to wait for Collin County to portion that out. So our portion of the funds from Collin County is $914,000. You can see here on my screen that staff already basically figured out how to spend it, which is fantastic because most of the things that they're looking at spending these funds on are going to increase our safety of both not just our employees, but also our residents. So there are a lot of upgrades around the city that are planned. Some of them are already starting to go into place. We want to make sure that things are more touchless from this point forward. And again, we're thinking long-term here. This is not just a knee-jerk response to COVID-19. This is the realization that pandemics do affect us. It's not something that is not out of the realm of possibility for the future. So we want to make sure that we are very much looking ahead and making sure that we've got our staff prepared as well as our facilities. Julie also mentioned, so I do want to give a quick plug to the Collin Cares Small Business Grant Program. As she mentioned, the application process right now for your businesses is open for another 10 days, so through November 25th. If your business meets all of the eligibility requirements, I do highly encourage you to apply. If you have any kind of expenses from March through August that deal with payroll and utilities, and especially if you've done anything in your business to help support the concept of being safe here in COVID-19 times, I highly encourage you to apply for this grant. Your business could receive up to $25,000. So make sure you go to the Collin County website for more information there. I want to circle back to a couple things on the tax rate. So again, I mentioned our tax rate is staying steady this year. I just threw out this historic tax rate graph because this is something that the mayor and I love to kind of watch and see how this trend has gone over the past number of years. You can see we were riding pretty high there in the early 2010s, but we have made some significant changes in the city accounting practices. That primarily is due to us onboarding our amazing city manager, Dr. Castro, as well as his, I don't know a better word than amazing, team of financial advisors. So Karen Montgomery and her team have just been outstanding at uncovering a lot of potential waste in the city, making sure that we are reporting things correctly. She has really done a fantastic job working with Ernie Chambers, our controller, and getting everything set for our annual audits. And we have had absolutely glowing reports for the past number of years because of their dedication to this. And that really reflects all the way down through the chain. Every department is responsible for making sure that we can really manage our money wisely. And that's really a testament to how we can keep this tax rate fairly low and steady at this point. In case you're wondering where we are in relation to our neighboring cities, I also put this together and took a look at what our neighboring cities did, not just this year, but also last year. So some of these are proposed, many of these have been adopted already this year, but I did grab this information and found that most of the cities around us also are keeping their tax rate steady. They're recognizing that we have a lot of challenges for our residents this year, and we don't want to place any additional burden. So a lot of us have been tightening our belts and making sure that we have tried to again, not cut city services, still have that exemplary customer service that we always have, but be able to work within our means. I will say, way to go, Wiley. I will give them a little bit of a shout out because finally they have been able to drop their tax rate by about 1.5 cents, which I think has been a long time coming. In terms of our sales tax revenue, I found this pretty interesting. This is something I've become more and more interested in as we do our financial updates every month at the city. So what you see there in this, sorry, Ernie, I kind of, I took your numbers and I made it into the world's most ugly line graph. But our 2020 year here in that thick kind of green line is really showing that we have experienced a higher sales tax revenue than ever before. And in certain places, you're seeing it really wildly different. So I will say, for one thing, our sales tax revenue is reported kind of 2 months behind the times. So what you're seeing there, that general spike in February, that's actually related to sales tax that is collected in December. So it's reported in February. So that's kind of how this graph looks. You can see here that starting in June, as we in 2020 started to really see the increase in our sales tax revenue. Again, think back 2 months, that started to be our April, our May, our June, our July, and a lot of online sales have started happening there when we've been really severely locked down from COVID. I don't know what the numbers look like for tonight if Arnie gives those to us, but I am expecting that that we'll probably see at least the same amount here reported for September, which we'll be reporting for the July numbers. But it's been pretty fascinating. Arnie did also a great analysis of how much of our sales tax comes from online versus storefront. So just to give you a quick little, some quick analysis here. In fiscal year 19, so last year, we actually only had kind of a partial year for this analysis. So we only have January through September to report on. But in that time frame, 3% of our sales tax was coming from online sales and 97% was storefront. Here in 2020, where we've had this full year of analysis, minus this last month of September, 8% of our sales tax is coming from online sales and 92% store. But I don't want you to think that our storefronts aren't doing as well. We have still seen an increase of 4% of our sales tax revenue over last year. We've had a number of new businesses open up as well, which has really been a fantastic way to increase our services around town. I'm going to be interested, though, to keep seeing these online sales numbers, because just our small analysis from last year to this year, our online sales increased by 173%, which sounds like a crazy number, and it probably is, and it's probably not going to be reflective of any kind of trend necessarily. I don't think any of us can really understand or expect what we should be seeing here in the next couple of years. Turning now over to bond projects. So back in 2017, we took some bond propositions to the voters, and I think you probably have heard us talk about this for the last couple of years in the State of the City update, but we did have 3 different propositions that were passed by the voters. And so this is just a quick understanding of where we've spent the money versus what the total budget for those particular propositions is. Right now, we've basically kind of expended 42% of our overall funds, and we have pretty much all of our projects in progress, which is awesome. Speaking of the completed projects, I am so excited to announce our Water's Edge Park finally has opened as of August. We had a great groundbreaking ceremony a year ago, and now a year later, we had the actual ribbon cutting as well. I will tell you, if you haven't seen your council members play on playground equipment, there is video evidence out there, and I would highly encourage you to go laugh at us, because we tested out every single bit of that equipment, made sure it was safe for the kids. If you do have kids of your own, grandkids, go steal your next door neighbor's baby, I don't know, go check out this park. It is our first major inclusive park. We've done some upgrades to some of the other parks to have some inclusive playground equipment. This one really truly is targeted to allow kids of all ages and any kind of disabilities to be able to play. We have some awesome swings. I will say that's very, very fun. Those slides are wicked fast without being too scary. And there's just some really cool tactile things that kids can play with throughout the playground. A little bit less sexy of projects, we've got our street panel replacement, which has, it's actually in punch list phase right now, so it should be wrapped up here by the end of the month, but I figured I could include it here on the completed projects. That's what you're seeing up on the top left part of your screen. That was primarily focused on our Skyline Acres and Travis Farms area. So Horizon, Sunset, Skyline roads, all kind of got some major updates to their concrete pavement. That is an area of town where we have a lot of drainage problems because that is not a curb and gutter area, which we're used to seeing in a lot of our neighborhoods. This really is an open ditch kind of area. And we wanted to still allow the residents to have that feel because they specifically asked for it. But they did need some they did need some upgrades to their roads. And then finally, the landscape and irrigation on a number of our roads, Heritage, Betsy, North Murphy Road, and McCreary Road, those all also, I believe, are under punch list time. And so we're just trying to wrap those up as well if they're not completed already. Those primarily were focused on changing some of the medians over so that they are irrigated better, where sometimes we didn't have irrigation set up already. We also have made sure that we have changed over to more drought tolerant plants and also some lower visibility plants. If I'm saying that correctly. We tried to stay away from putting trees right there next to each of those intersections so that hopefully folks can see a little bit better around the corners. I will say one thing that I left off here that I just remembered this morning is that we have our brand new marquee sign in front of the community center. I don't have a great picture of it, but it looks amazing. So I highly encourage you, next time you drive past the community center, go take a look, and it's got great information showing on the screen, but as well, it's just, I think, pretty beautiful to look at. We've got now 10 of our projects that have been completed under the bond projects. 10 more, the remaining of them, are all under varying stages of construction. And that's really the bulk of where the money is going to be valued at, $12.8 million worth of projects under construction. So just to touch on a couple of them, here on the top part of your screen, you're going to see that very lovely picture of a ditch. That is part of the Timbers Drainage Project. There are 3 different drainage channels within the Timbers that badly need some updates. We need to clear out brush. We need to expand some of the areas where we have the concrete swale. And we have done just a lot of kind of reclaiming of that right-of-way. I'm sorry, of that easement. We've got work undergoing right now on North Maxwell Creek Road. That's again one of those places where we don't have curb and gutter. We just have a drainage ditches along an asphalt road, and that asphalt road is getting a much needed upgrade to concrete. It'll be much easier to repair and replace that in future years, and that concrete will hold out a hell of a lot longer than the asphalt. So we're very excited. Most of you, if you ever take that little back way to City Hall or to PSA, you've noticed that that has been closed down for about a month, and that's because we're undergoing that update right now. One of my favorite things about that particular project is that we are also making sure to finish our trail pathway that goes across the railroad. So we do have a DART railroad track running right through that, and we're going to be fixing the road through it as well as completing the trail so that pedestrians and bicyclists can actually not have to be in the road anymore, which is a fantastic update. South Maxwell Creek and Kinney Roads, that's primarily going to be a drainage improvement project. And I believe we are also repaving the asphalt roads there. Our city facilities are undergoing a bunch of renovations as well. The police department has renovations primarily in the locker rooms. We're kind of revamping that. We're also removing the jail area. We no longer really ever use it, mainly, and Chief Cotton can correct me if I'm wrong, but we primarily will either take anybody over and hold them at Wiley, I believe, if that's still available to us, or we take them up to Collin County itself. So we really don't have the need to hold anybody long-term in a jail. So we're going to be revamping that to make better use of that area. Public Works is getting a new storage facility. It's going to be rather large. It's going to be able to hold a lot of equipment, and it's something that they've desperately needed since we really grew up as a city. We've been able to secure more and more amazing equipment for them, and they just need good places to store it. And finally, the MAC renovation here for city facilities. You can see, most of you remember, we have actually used the MAC quite a bit for our chamber meetings, especially our Thursday morning business card exchanges. And we are very much looking forward to, hopefully in the future, getting you all back in there. The MAC has undergone quite a significant renovation because no longer is it going to be one large room. It's actually broken up into a number of smaller rooms that will still hold large groups. So we hope to be able to have more people utilize the MAC in the future at any given time. We'll also probably have some AV equipment and hookups and things like that that will be a little bit easier for groups to use as well. For Bunny Run and Lonesome Dove, those are two different areas. Bunny Run is down here just outside of the Timbers, and Lonesome Dove is up in the Ranch and Gables area. Both of those are going to be undergoing some culvert updates. So that's, again, some drainage improvements. And then finally, North Hill Park and Travis Farm Park. Again, two wildly different areas of town that I just kind of lumped together because they're pretty similar. North Hill Park is up in the Ranch and Gables. That's going to get an additional, we kind of were looking at, there's about 4.5 acres of open space there. So we were looking at what to do with it. Do we need to regrade it? Do we need to add additional paths? We are adding a tennis court, which is going to be awesome. And we're adding an exercise station on top of some like rubberized pavement. So it's going to be pretty cool to be able to kind of go around that entire area and be able to get your workout in as well. For Travis Farm Park, there's 5.5 acres of open space. We're going to leave a lot of that very natural as the residents requested, but we are increasing the trail options because we'd like to make more of a connection to not just Travis Farm Estates, but also Bluff Creek Estates, which is on the east side of that park. So we're going to make sure that more residents are able to enjoy that, especially the ones that live nearby. But of course, that will be open to anybody in the city. Speaking of things that people can do here in the city, our recreation department is outstanding. They have been able to really kind of pivot here. As of March 15th, everything in the city kind of went virtual. And so a number of our classes, we've worked with them and we've been able to help a number of them go virtual and then start returning now in person. So it's really of all ages. We've got some targeted much younger groups, as well as some of the as well as jazzercise and the yoga classes have resumed. We've also got a number of other activities returning this fall, and you can see how stinking cute they are with their masks on and still being able to do their activities here in the gym. So we've really tried to make sure that we've implemented things like temperature checks and masks and additional sanitation practices, just to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe who comes in. We'll also give, I stole this just yesterday, actually. We just put this out on social media, our open gym policy. So if you have any questions about using the gym at any point, please do feel free to give our rec staff a call. They'll be able to walk you through any kind of reservations you might need and talk to you about how many people can come in at any given time. In terms of community events, again, this is hand in hand with our recreation department. Our community events, which we absolutely love, really got thrown a curveball on March 15th. We had to end up canceling a number of those. So that affected our Tunes, Tales, and Ales, which we usually hold at the end of April and beginning of May. We had to cancel all of our Moonlight movies, our Sounds at Sundown, and yes, very, very sadly, our upcoming Maze Days. But again, our community event staff just did a phenomenal job trying to think of other ways that we could help support our residents and kind of give everybody something fun to do here during this time. So very, very quickly, they spun up this concept of a senior car parade to celebrate our seniors from Plano East and Wiley High Schools. So we held that on Saturday, June 6th. And you can see that they had a blast tricking out their cars and trucks and riding down our little parade route. We had 46 cars that participated, and they went from Kimbrough up to Betsy Road, and then from McCreary over to Heritage, and then back to Kimbrough. And it was a really sweet little parade, and I think everybody really enjoyed it. I can't promise you that this is going to be an ongoing kind of occurrence, but it's certainly something that we've suggested that staff looks into. And I think the mayor was very, very pleased that his own senior high daughter could, could take part in this. Our community event staff has also successfully done our first drive-in movie theater in Kimbrough Stadium. So this was able to take place primarily because school was out and this was summer. So we, we showed Frozen 2 and it was a huge hit. We had 103 cars come to this event, and that allowed us to, as you can see in the picture, really space out the cars as well as making sure that everybody could see the screen. So I think this was just a brilliant idea. I can't wait for more events like this because I thought that was just a really clever use of Kimbrough Stadium, the concept of a screen, and allow everybody to kind of get a taste of being out and about. I think by that end of June, many of us were already kind of going crazy. So it was really nice to have that, that event available to us. Maze Days. We did do a Maze Days t-shirt design contest with the hopes that we would have Maze Days. So we did. I just wanted to give some props to the 3 adorable submissions. We did have our winner there in the top left-hand corner, the Murphy Maze Days with the little wheelbarrow and the corn, but super cute. We were so pleased that people were interested in designing these. But again, and it absolutely kills me to say this every time, Maze Days has been canceled. We had a really good and thoughtful discussion on council a couple of weeks ago and really tried to think of different ways to go about this. But at the end, we just didn't feel that we could put staff into that kind of a situation where they would potentially be exposed to so many people. And while we had a number of ways in place to be able to kind of manage the crowds, we really just felt that we probably couldn't put on the same kind and caliber of event that our residents are used to. So we'd rather delay this, make a bigger and better celebration for next year when we return. So knock on wood. For the rest of this calendar year, we are going to actually be discussing our events here tonight in our upcoming council meeting. So if you're interested, do tune in, and I'll try to also give folks updates on social media about what we decide here. So that's primarily going to be focused on Fall Clean and Green, Arbor Day, Christmas in the Park, I believe. But I did see on our agenda packet that there may be some new items in there. So possibly a Jazzercise in the Park event and a drive-through trunk or treat activity for our kids along Halloween. So very clever ideas. I really hope that we can come to a good understanding of how those events can take place. I think because they're smaller and they're probably a lot more easy to kind of manage, we may have some good successes here for some small community events this fall. So all hope is not lost. We're still here, we're still active, and certainly our community event staff is still gunning to help and put on some amazing events. So I do just also want to give a shout out to some community events that have been occurring that aren't necessarily city sponsored, but Country Burger this past weekend had an amazing car show. You can see there the drone image that I snagged from their Facebook page the other day, because wow, what a turnout. You can definitely tell that folks were ready to be able to be out and about and see each other. Probably a little less social distancing than I would like, but still, what an amazing turnout. And you can see that the spirit of this community is still very strong. We do have Walmart also offering to do a couple of drive-in movie nights. So those are coming up next month, October 20th and 21st. You are going to have to get tickets. And as you can see there, the tickets are going fast. So if you've got any interest in attending those, I don't think that I've heard what the movies are going to be, but regardless, it should be a fun night. And I have heard that there may be some swag and some bags for attendees, so you don't want to miss that. Another activity here going on in the city, big promotion here, because as you heard Carolyn mention, I've actually been a member of a number of our boards and commissions before I ever thought about joining council. And so we highly encourage you to think about, if you've got a little bit of spare time, our boards and commissions is a great way to give back to the city. This is completely volunteer positions. Really does not take up too much of your time. Some of our boards do meet monthly, at least once a month. Others meet a little less frequently. So I would highly encourage you, if you have any questions or comments, we will be holding an open house. I did kind of revamp our graphic. I stole one from last year, but we are going virtual this year. So last year, we had the great idea from council member Liz Abraham of holding an open house just to be able to get folks involved and understand what the boards and commissions are a little bit more. And so this year, we're going to do the same thing, holding it virtually. So Susie and our IT director are really kind of coming up with some clever ideas of how we can host that. And so I would really strongly encourage you or anybody you know that might want to volunteer and give back to the city to come to that event. And then again, if you would like to fill out an application, it's a very easy application, no real stress. You will also have a 5 or 10 minute conversation with a couple of council members who are our boards and commissions committee. And so they'll kind of pick and choose and figure out where the best placement for you on a particular board is. So that application is available on our website. You can go right there, fill it out on the web form, submit it, and be done. So we'll certainly be in contact with you. And if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our city secretary as well. Now, coming to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, I would be it would be silly of me not to mention a number of our new businesses. So I did grab everyone that I could find a logo for. Wanted to say big props to all of the new restaurants that are spinning up. You all have gained a couple of pounds here from COVID-19 I would like to pass off, but nope, it's in fact just eating a whole lot of donuts, a whole lot of brunch, and a whole lot of Indian food. But that's fantastic. I am so pleased that you all have been able to join us here in the city. Also, I will say that to work off those pounds, we've got Pure Bar now across the road from me as well. And if you are at all athletic or skilled, or even if you're not, go check out Ninja Nation. They just opened up this past week or 2 weeks ago or so, and they have just had a fabulous little spot there right next to the old Albertsons. They kind of carved off a portion of that, and it's just really a terrific facility. We're excited about some of the upcoming items coming up soon. Service First, if you've noticed on 544 on the south side here, right before you get to CBS, that building is pretty much completed, and I believe we started to issue the certificate of occupancy. So I would expect to hear that they're going to have a grand opening soon, if they haven't had one already and I missed it. But looking forward to them and a number of other folks. Assured Self-Storage, the Indo-Pac Supermarket, Best Gymnastics, those are all currently in progress in construction. And so finally, I just wanted to recap kind of some amazing things about the Murphy Unites program. Again, I cannot say enough about this idea that came from the chamber here back in March or April. You all started talking with city staff, and my goodness, this program has just blossomed. I can't thank Jared Mayfield and Bailey Ragsdale enough for all of their hard work, plus everybody else at the city that they've worked with, as well as you all here on the chamber. So we have this absolutely brilliant logo, and everything that I try to post on social media, I try to post Murphy Unites, hashtag Murphy Unites. Some of the cool things that they've been doing here is they have launched the website and our social media pages. So again, go look on Facebook for Murphy Unites. We've got a number of Discover Murphy videos. I am the star of one. We've had Janae Butler do a little behind the scenes at Two Crazy Bakers, which was super cool. And we've got a whole host of other things that are coming up as well. We've got some cool banners on South Murphy Road that you can see. We've got sidewalk decals that I still haven't found all of them. I think there's, Bailey can correct us, there's either like 7 or 10 of them around town. I've only found a couple of them. We've also window clings for your businesses. So if you don't have a window cling to put in your business, please do contact the Murphy Unites team and we'll make sure to get you one. And then finally, big props for the new dining and retail guides. These are little trifold brochures that we've put together that really kind of give an amazing view of our entire commercial area that shows us exactly what is going on here in the city of Murphy that we get to do when we think about shopping local, staying local, and making sure that we are essentially supporting the city by those sales tax dollars. So all those sales tax dollars go to everything that we do, beautification projects, road improvements. There's just so many things that is crucial for us to be able to maintain the level of services here in the city. And so anything that we can do to encourage folks to still to use your businesses as much as possible, we are doing our best to do so. All right, folks, that pretty much wraps up our State of the City for right now. But if you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. And if you don't get time to ask me today or you don't think about it today, I'm pretty sure all of you know where you can find me. My email address, while it does include my last name and it is impossible to spell unless you're Susie Quinn, I would highly recommend you go to the city page and you can always find me there. So thank you, guys. Any questions?
You did so well at covering everything. There's hardly any questions to ask.
I tried to jam pack it all in there.
Okay, last call. Anybody got a question? Okie dokie. Let's move on to our presentation by the Keep Murphy Beautiful. While we're giving Miss Jennifer a round of applause. It was wonderful to hear everything that's happening with the city. Bailey?
No, we can't hear you, Bailey. Not yet, can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't work in IT. So really 2020 has pretty much changed everyone's lives and Keep Murphy Beautiful's. We're really sad we haven't been able to do a lot of the events that we normally do, but we are going to look forward to 2021 and hopefully everything will get back to normal. Like Jennifer said, we are doing our October cleaning green for our residents. And as a little shout out to our team, we received gold status for the 8th year in a row and sustained excellence for the 5th year in a row. So the green team has really worked hard to maintain that. We are hoping to look forward to our annual recycled tree ornament contest. I know a lot of our businesses had a fun time with that last year, and we're crossing our fingers that we can figure out a way to socially distance and do that safely. But if you don't know about it, just go ahead and follow us on Facebook. The city page is great. And we also have a Keep Murphy Beautiful page. And what the contest is our team comes up with an item that's recyclable that you have to use decorating your tree. One year we used CDs, last year was plastic water bottles, and people get very creative. So be on the lookout to see if that actually gets to happen. And that's pretty much all I got.
Thanks, Bailey. Thanks for the update. Carolyn, are you still there?
Hello, Carolyn.
Have we lost you, Carolyn? I'll go ahead and continue. I'd like to recognize some people that are on the call today that are state officials or city employees that have joined us. We appreciate you joining us today. I wanted to recognize Maggie Smith with Congressman Van Taylor on the call. She regularly attends the luncheons. We appreciate your participation and updates here and there. So thank you, Maggie, for being on the call. I believe Suzanne Bowers was going to be joining us as well, and she's from the Office of Candy Noble, our state representative. So thank you, Suzanne. We also have Mike Castro, City Manager, Del Albright, Fire Chief, Arthur Cotton, our Police Chief. We have Karen Montgomery, our Finance Director, Jana Ventura, HR Director, Ernie Bannister, Controller, Sharzad, I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, Rizvi, Budget Officer, and Susie Quinn, City Secretary. And I also believe Alicia Manoz was on the call as well. And if I have missed anybody with the city, please go ahead and introduce yourself now. I apologize. I had everybody who was registered on, so I think that's who we have. But thank you for joining us today and for supporting Jennifer as well. And we really appreciated your updates. Do we have any newer chamber members that have joined us today on the call that would like to introduce themselves and their business? Or if it's your first time, go ahead. I see a hand there. Are you with PMI? Go ahead, Krishna.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Krishna Upadhyay with PMI Star of Texas. I'm a residential property manager, focusing on just single family property management. Thank you. And it was a great presentation. Really got to learn a lot about Murphy. It was great. Thank you.
Thanks. And thanks for being on the call for the luncheon. All right. So next, if we don't have anyone else that's new to the call other than who I've introduced, I will turn it over to Steve Dalt, who is on our scholarship. He's with our Scholarship Foundation. So go ahead, Steve, for any updates for the scholarship.
Great job, Jennifer. Thanks. It was very informative, and we appreciate your time and the effort that the city puts into making Murphy such a great city. Quick note, as Jennifer noted, that the Maze Days was canceled this year. And as everyone knows, that is probably well, not probably, it definitely is our largest fundraiser. We typically raise $5,000 to $6,000 from that event with the support of the city, and appreciate that very much. But on the good news, we do have our Pumpkin Chunkin title sponsor is going to sponsor a scholarship this year. So for the first year, we're going to have named scholarships. The Sampak Auto Group scholarship is the first one that will be done. And I have a commitment from someone who at this point in time is anonymous. I'm not sure how much recognition they want, but they are going to be naming a scholarship after their mother. So that takes care of 2 of our scholarships for this year. So that's a fantastic note. We do have some people who have, gosh, since the beginning of Pumpkin Chunkin have been sponsors, and they have committed to sponsoring a float, even though we're not going forward with it, for $150 this year. So if you would be interested in sponsoring a float and getting recognition on our social pages and on our webpage, please contact either myself or Sherry Searcy, and we could really use that $150 donation this year so that we can fund our 6 scholarships that we give away. That's it right now. We have some other ideas for raising funds so that we can cover the cost of those scholarships. And again, those are 6 scholarships at $1,500 each. So we do have a little bit of a shortfall this year without Pumpkin Chunkin, and any support would be appreciated. $5, $10, $15, $20 would be great. And we're working on some ways to make it easy for people to make donations. That's the scholarship update at this time. Thanks, Julie, and thanks again, Jennifer.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for the updates.
Good job, Steve.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to give anyone a last chance. If anyone's thought of any questions they might want to ask Jennifer, we have a few minutes we can spare. If anyone's thought of anything, she had a great, detailed, thorough presentation. So, but if anyone thought of anything and they're not going to attend council meeting tonight, now's your chance. I also wanted to just recognize, I'd like to recognize our ambassadors because they really do a lot of the work of the chamber to help. And I have a few on the call today. We have Sammy Hampton. You may recognize Sammy. She's usually at our face-to-face luncheons, and she's the first person you see when you come up to check in. I miss seeing you, Sammy, at our face-to-face events, but I'm glad you could join us today. And Jennifer Berthium, as she mentioned earlier, she's one of our ambassadors this year as well. And we always appreciate her support. I know she's been to a few of our ribbon cuttings this year, so we appreciate that. And so I just wanted to recognize the ambassadors on the call today. And that really closes out the items we have on the program, and appreciate all of you being on today. So if anyone had anything they needed to stay on for after the call, you're welcome to. Otherwise, stay tuned for updates for our October luncheon. Again, that'll be October 20th, 11:30. Details to follow on the program. So thank you all for joining today. And with that, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Julie.
Hi, Mary Pat.
Can I talk to you a minute?
Sure.
Yeah, Marv too.